time for Bring It In True Hoops Zoom quarantine show. We have our glasses on because free agency is confusing and you have to read a lot. It's free agency time. To be really fast, we could just look at the ridiculousness. I asked, who's your favorite remaining free agent? This was like one of the, maybe the first response was this one. Pretty good. Nice. And then I thought this was my ex-wife is still single.
That's good. That's really funny. That's really funny.
And look at this, David DeFore. Every team got worse or stayed the same except for your team. They are doing great. That's literally, I mean, in researching for today's show, you can find basically every local team, their local beat writer or blogger, et cetera, is saying like, oh my gosh, the Thunder, Suns, Jazz, whatever, like killing free agency. And it's like, oh, probably not. It can't all be true. So David, you have we asked you last week to come up with your top 5, best rank the contenders, right? Who's doing well through these changes? And you have revised your list. You know, walk us through this and
I have the Heat and the Raptors weren't on my first list. They're there now, and we'll talk about that. The Lakers have dropped from 1 to 3. The Bucks are remaining at 2, and the Clippers went from the Bucks were 3rd. They're up to 2nd, and I got the Clippers now from 2 to 1, which may be a little bit counterintuitive because they lost some good players. They also have added some players. I think that I thought last year we had a real open question, which is the first time in years because of Golden State's dominance. And I think we saw that play out. I thought the Clippers win the championship in October of last year. And we published in June, we thought the Lakers would win, and that worked out. And this year, there's still some deals to be done before we have to make any guesses now. But based on the rosters today, Henry, I think that the Clippers are the most likely number 1 seed in the West, and Milwaukee's still the most likely number 1 seed in the East. That's probably the way I look at it right now.
Okay, so we're going to get into this. I think everybody can claim some victories, right? And we'll go through team by team of the contenders. But everybody lost stuff. Like there's not a single contending team that didn't also lose some players they really counted on. Should we start with the Clippers, I guess? Is that good?
Sure.
Now I'm struggling to find them in my list. Did I not? Here we go. Okay, so they lost Landry Shamet, JaMychal Green, Reggie Jackson, Montrezl Harrell, and gained Serge Ibaka, and have some secret wins. Talk to me about this.
Yeah. So just on the bench, they have a player named Terrence Mann. They have 2 Florida State players, and I talk about Florida State a lot because of my son's connection now. But I knew about these guys last year when he was not going there. Terrence Mann is the more intriguing of the 2, even though he was a 2nd-round pick. I heard last year like the Clippers were nuts about him, to the point where an executive once told me, when he was asking me about the Clippers roster a little bit, and I mentioned about maybe he was someone trying to trade for someone, and I said, what about Terrence Mann? And he kind of whispered to me, they're not willing to trade him or something like that. Like, I already knew from Florida State coaches that they loved him. And I told you this before, I like to listen to local telecasts because you never know what nugget you might get from the announcers who are talking to coaches all the time, right? Because they're traveling with them, whatever. And I remember early in the season, they were talking about how Terrence Mann was like the only young guy who was training with Kawhi and Paul George because they loved him. And he is this charismatic leader player. He's not at all like Fred VanVleet in terms of how he looks or plays, but I think in impact he can be. He can't shoot like Fred yet, but Fred at one point couldn't shoot the way Fred can shoot now. But he has a chance to be a top defender. He's a winner. I think it's why they were willing to trade Landry Shamet. They got back Luke Kennard, who's the pure shooter. He's the more pure shooter of the 3. But Mann can be a playmaker and an excellent defender, which Shamet actually can be a very good defender. Mann can be better. Long, defensive-minded. Yeah, so I think he's interesting. Their late first-round pick, Kabungale, who also came from Florida State, is an interesting talent. Big guy that shoots threes, but big, rugged, athletic guy. And then Kennard being the great shooter. And, I mean, Ibaka was secretly Like our buddy Zach Lowe likes to use the word secret this, secret that. And I think he's right. Sometimes players kind of fly under our radar. There's just so many things going on, and the pandemic and the election and Trumpism, whatever. Serge Ibaka was really good last year. So I think they got better. And then I'm also betting a lot on Ty Lue and on Payne. Let me say that too. Like, they got roasted last year. They were up 3-1 to a young team and got smoked out. And they haven't had a lot of time to let that sink in, which is probably a good thing. I just think with Ty Lue being there, these guys coming in, I just think they're going to take a little more seriously. They didn't take the bubble seriously last year. And so I give them a hair's advantage over Milwaukee and the Lakers, who we'll get to as well.
There's one dynamic here, which is someone offers money to a player that you like, who's a veteran, and you have the Terrence Mann or someone you're excited about, you're a year or two into developing, ready to fill in affordably. I feel like that is like an essential component of long-term excellence in the NBA, right? You cannot go paying everybody who gets a crazy offer. You can't match every Gordon Hayward offer kind of thing. Actually, to that note, the Raptors are probably good to talk about here. They lost their two big men in Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol.
Yeah.
And replaced them with Aaron Baines, and their own version of Terrence Mann is Chris Boucher. Is that right?
Right. He's 20, so much older. He's 27. He's an inside player. So I think your point should be the most important point that we discuss today is why aren't teams building, right? What we have seen now is a lot of teams are accessorizing instead of building, I think, because then there's a future. And accessory, what's faddish comes and goes. If you're building, you're around longer. We'll talk about the Lakers in a minute, and I'm writing about some of this for this week. There's no foresight for a lot of these teams. What we're going to look like, for example, in LA, what is the summer of 2022 going to look like with AD and LeBron? What are they doing now for then? And the answer is nothing that I can see, right? And I think Toronto has been doing this for a while. They're loaded with lots of good young players that now get a chance to come in and play. And I mean, Boucher's not that young; he's 27, but he wasn't someone that people thought would be in the NBA, and now he is. It has been for a little bit. But the Anunobis of the world, and Norman Powell's, and Terrence Davis's, and Boucher's, and Van Vliet, they've developed a lot of guys. And I think their culture will be, not the culture, the way they'll play will be a little bit different in Toronto. They'll be more athletic, not less athletic with what they'll have now, as I think the Heat will be, which we'll talk about them. And but I think every team should be thinking about this. And that's why we have the G League, which is a little bit of what I'm writing about too this week, not the first time, where I don't know that teams have any idea how to use that. In fact, I would argue they don't know how to use the G League. And I think the Pelicans know how. They just did a deal where they didn't trade just one, but two two-way players. And one of them got a guaranteed deal out of it for the team he went to. That's how it's supposed to be. I call them assets until they have names. So now those guys have names. They're two-way players with names, and you're supposed to develop those human beings into better players for you to keep or move as you build your team. And I don't think too many teams are doing that well.
Okay, so we covered the Raptors and the Clippers. It seems like we're destined to talk about the Lakers. We plunge in now. They have added Dennis Schroeder, which you were very excited about, Montrezl Harrell, Wes Matthews, Marc Gasol, and a big deal for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope to come back. They are losing. This is a pretty long list of players: Avery Bradley, Danny Green, JaVale McGee, Dwight Howard, Rajon Rondo, and Quinn Cook. You add it all together and you get what?
So I think they've gotten a little bit worse, but that's before they play their first game. I liked Montrez and Schroeder on paper, with McGee and Howard. So now, I mean, as I said to you on the phone over the weekend, so now they got Marc Gasol, who, again, in 2022, even 2021 in the summer, I'm not sure they're thinking he's going to be around. They signed him to a 2-year deal, which means they don't even get as I talked to you about earlier, they don't get to save $1 million a year, which seems nothing for them. but still it's $1 million that you would
if
get.
you sign someone who's been around for 10 years to a 1-year deal, the league kicks in $1 million of their
$1 million of their 2.6, right? Because they want you to keep old guys around, which the league's got to look into that. That's so crazy to me. I understand why they're doing it for marketing purposes, but if the goal is to try to put the best,
I don't think it's marketing, Dave. For a second, it's 100% how you get player votes for the CBA, right?
Yeah, I get it.
Like when there's a whole bunch of 27-year-olds voting on the CBA, and they're worried about their 3-year, 4-year income, and so they just slip this in to bribe them all to vote for the CBA. That's all. Like, it's just taking money from rookies and giving it to old guys.
Yeah, you're right. They call it, and they do it because they claim it's marketing, but it's just bad for the league, I think. But anyway, Marc Gasol can shoot threes, is a good defensive player still, very, very good defensive player. Different, like we said, we wrote about the Lakers last year. They led the league, I think, in block shots and dunks, and that's not going to happen this year. Okay, with the changes they've made. Gasol is a brilliant passer, but you have to cut to catch layups and dunks from Marc Gasol. Who's cutting on that team? Caldwell Pope, Kuzma a little bit. Kuzma got better at that, I thought, this year. LeBron ain't. Davis not. They do their work when the ball is in their hands in the half court. Full court's different. So Marc Gasol is not throwing long Kevin Love, the Corey Brewer touchdown passes to Anthony Davis either. And neither is Rondo. And Rondo did that well. They lost Bradley's athleticism, McGee's athleticism and energy, Howard's athleticism, physicalness and energy. And they added, a nice, crafty future doctor or whoever, Marc Gasol. I don't love that. I do think Schroeder, like they're my top 5. They're contenders for sure. I like Dennis Schroeder. I like Montrez for them. I do. They're going to go through working through this new offense process, which I think they're going to have to do. They can't just put Marc Gasol in the dunk spot. It's going to be a different look to what they do. And I don't love it. I like it. I don't love it. And I like what the Clippers did a little bit better. Who's
playing? I mean, there's more coming, right? Like they were not done.
Yeah, they've got to sign more players.
Because who's the starting 5? Is Montrez starting, you think, next to Anthony Davis? And then who's playing center?
No, I don't think so. I think it's going to be Marc. I think it's going to be Gasol with Davis at 4, and they'll bring Montrez off the bench. That's my guess.
So then there are a lot of players on this Lakers team who are pretty old and pretty bad bets to be healthy for 72 games in a tightly packed schedule. And to me, I'm like, once there's a breach, whoever it's going to be, what's the plan B, right? Now it's like Dennis Schroeder and Kyle Kuzma make magic, right? Like they're fantastic. Everyone's healthy, I guess, but there's not a lot of wiggle room for error here. And this is the year. No one's going to do this, but if there were some genius team, this would be the year to just like platoon players, right? And just play everybody twice a week, maybe 3 times a week tops, and sit everybody a lot so that you can just have fewer injuries, be fresher, jump higher, run faster than everybody else. And like the Lakers are the worst equipped to do that now. I did a little so Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, it's about to turn 28. I think it's signed him to a 4-year deal at his position where he needs to be really fast. Like this is squarely in the decline. Dennis Schroeder is 27. Montrez is 26. Wesley Matthews is 34. Marc Gasol is 35. You know what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Listen, KCP in the postseason, his speed blew me away. He's not 32 yet. This is my point. As we look down the road with Davis, where are you going? They're not thinking about it that way. They're going year to year. And maybe that's what you have to do with LeBron. We'll see. Schroeder's super fast. I think that we'll see how well they get him to play defense. Bradley really sees himself as a defender. Schroeder's more of a scorer, but can be a good defender. He's slighter. He's slight, but long as hell. And OKC was good this year. Like I said, I like those two. The Gasol one over McGee and Howard. I thought that was such a good two-headed monster for them. There is an argument that it could be better. I think it's going to take some figuring out, which is why I don't rank them number 1 now. And these are regular season predictions. I'm not going to start looking at playoffs just yet. We haven't finished free agency yet. But I don't love it. I just like it.
Yeah, it's funny. So Kevin Pelton, who, respect the hell out of his work, he thinks the Lakers, among contenders, help their chances the most, are now the favorites. I feel a little more trepidatious about it.
Yeah, I'm pushing back on that. I understand where Kevin's coming from, but I'm not ready to say that's going to happen just yet. To me, this is on a side note, the single most fortunate franchise. You could argue with me if you want. I still say for the entire offseason, it's the Wizards. They drafted after the second pick, second best prospect in the draft. They got him ninth. And this is super important because this happened over the weekend. So they got Denny Adia second instead of, they got him ninth instead of he should have gone second or third. And John Wall requested a trade. Like, thank you. Thank you. Tommy Shepard, a religious guy, has got to be saying, thank you, Lord. Because, like, I almost wonder if did he get a text saying, dude, we agree. Like, we want to trade you too. Wish us luck. Go to church. Pray for us.
It doesn't matter if John Wall requests a trade, though, right? Someone still has to take him.
Right.
Like, yeah.
I'm sure they would love to trade John Wall, but it gives Tommy permission now to trade him for Russell Westbrook, which is not a great contract either.
Yeah.
But you're solving two problems, right? You want to get rid of John Wall, and he wants to be gotten rid of. Great. So, I would do that Westbrook deal. I don't know that they will or that the Rockets would, but like I said, if the luckiest team, so the most fortunate team in frame so far is the Washington Wizards because of Dia. And
on the other hand, they're still the Wizards. All right, well, getting back to our contenders though. So we got Raptors. We still have to talk about the Warriors. Let's go there. So they added James Wiseman, Kelly Oubre, Kent Bazemore, Brad Wanamaker, and I guess lost Klay Thompson, which is a sad thing to say. We have to analyze it that way. Put it all together and you get what?
I think they've done really well. All things considered, I think they've done well. Drafting Wiseman was a no-brainer. For me, as we published, it was a no-brainer. Maybe other people didn't agree. But I thought there was no way they weren't drafting the kid. And I'm glad to know that so far, anyway, it looked like we were right. I think that Oubre's good. He's athletic. He's not Klay Thompson. But he's been a disappointment and has started to play better. And did well for Monty and in Phoenix, and now in the Cuisinart and Steph Curry. And you and I both believe Steph Curry is incredible, as does most of the free world, and can make everyone better. So the Oubre, we'll see how Wiggins does. Wanamaker played really well for Boston last year off the bench. They needed that. If Klay Thompson's on this team, they're a contender to me. Yeah. He's not. Yeah. He's not going to be on the team. So they're a contender for the playoffs, and that I don't know that there can be much more than that absent some kind of other deals. The question for me is Draymond Green. Draymond's got to be a great leader, which we don't know if he will be. He could be, and he's got to make threes for the first time in years. He's in great shape from what we've seen on film. He's got to make threes. If he can't make threes, then there's a problem. If he can make threes again, they're a really interesting team. Yeah. I like what they've done though.
Okay. The Bucks have lost Eric Bledsoe, George Hill, Wesley Matthews, Robin Lopez, Kyle Korver, Frank Mason, Ersan Ilyasova, Sterling Brown, and Marvin Williams retired. They added Drew Holiday, DJ Augustine, Bobby Portis, Jalen Adams, and a bunch of rookies. What do you make of all that?
So I think Holiday is better than Bledsoe. And for a few different reasons. He's maybe a little bit better on the court. He might be a better fit. He also is just a different player. They needed to move on from Eric of what's happened the last couple of postseasons. And I love DJ Augustine. I think that's a kind of a secret get for them that's going to help them a lot. He's different than George Hill. He's probably better than George Hill. Didn't make 52% of his threes. But no, that's a good ad for them. Portis is a big question mark. He's a talented player who's been stuck in two horrendous situations. To my knowledge, wasn't he with the Bulls first?
Mm-hmm. And then the Knicks. So, he's in a good place, right? I think if I was him, I'd rather live. I know for sure that if I had a choice, I'd rather live in Chicago or New York as a man, as a human playing NBA basketball. I'd rather be in Milwaukee, to be fair. Mm-hmm. So he gets that wish, and if they can find something with him, which I think is possible, great. Can Giannis make threes? So DiVincenzo is going to be better this year.
DiVincenzo is going to be better. He was a second-year player last year and had a breakout year. He's good. He's a talented player. And so we're going to mention the Heat in a minute. And the Heat's got a couple guys that can get better from last year. Four players. He can get better for them. And then can Giannis make threes? Because right now I'm looking at regular season, and I have them number 2 behind the Clippers, and probably because the East is better too. So they may not win as many games as they did last year. But when we get to the postseason, I'd like to see him be a more significant threat. But they've done well. I don't, getting Bogdanovich would have been better still. And I went to Atlanta, which is kind of weird. But they're going to be right there. Yeah, they're still a very good team.
This is the thing. Like I think we tend to think of basketball players as like additive. So like, if your team was worth 150, now it's 156 because you got one more guy.
Right.
And if you're a good team, especially if you're not going to play that player, it doesn't matter at all, right? And if you are going to play them and they're not going to be better than who was playing those minutes before, then it doesn't matter at all, right? So this is where, to me, I think Jrue Holiday is actually one of the more meaningful changes in the whole league, because a really good team got better at a position where like they played Eric Bledsoe a lot, right? And so now they're going to be a little better for a lot of minutes.
Yeah.
It's not so clear that these, probably that's true of Dennis Schroeder's minutes in LA, right? And not a lot of other deals where mostly it's just going to be like, Montrez, is he going to fill in the minutes better than Dwight Howard? I don't know. Maybe it's about the same, right? Kind of a wash. But that one seems like stands out. I was like, yeah, I think they're going to be better now. I'm probably putting too much stock in. I'm a Blazers fan. Jrue Holiday's in my head because there was a playoff series where he destroyed the city of Portland. It's just leveled it. That's all done now. So I believe in him. And then a bunch of players, you've probably seen it. I mean, it doesn't show up exactly this way in the advanced stats, but there's a pretty big list of NBA players who were like, oh, he's the best defender in the NBA.
And we were at ESPN when that series occurred. Do you know do you remember what the seeding was for that series? Was it 3-6?
Something like that. Yeah.
Because I picked the Pelicans to win the series largely because of what you just said.
Yeah.
That if you're going to beat Portland back then anyway, you had to have someone neutralize Damian.
Yeah.
And he's an amazing person. If Giannis can make threes, I'd probably make them the favorites to win an NBA championship. But I'm not making that decision now. We'll see how the season goes.
It's amazing how important this one thing is, right? Same thing with Draymond and Andrew Wiggins, right? If everyone can shoot threes, then your team's going to be amazing.
Right. Well, in Giannis's case, they become unguardable. All right. So you want to get to the Nuggets?
Sure. Let's get to the Nuggets. So they gained Michael Green and Facundo Campazzo while losing Jeremy Grant, Mason Plumlee, and Torrey Craig. How are you?
Yeah. So we published an article a year ago in December where we listed 7 guys that we thought were not in the NBA and should be. And Campazzo was on that list. He should have been in the league years ago. But he's not going to be the big difference maker. JaMychal has got some big shoes to fill because he's taking what Jeremy Grant was doing. And Jeremy Grant was not great for them in the regular season. I think he got comfortable and he was terrific in the bubble and he's super switchable on defense. JaMychal isn't. JaMychal's a good athlete, not as fast, jumps well, shoots threes, good player. But I don't think they are where they were. And they still got work to do. They're betting a lot on MPJ, Gerard's favorite, Michael Porter Jr., making a big surge. He might. I'm not a fan. I'm not a believer. It's not fair to say I'm not a fan. I don't know that he plays with the intelligence he needs to play to get to the level that people want him to be at. He could just be a better Nick Young scorer, vacuous scorer. Whereas Jrue Holiday, there's so many guys in the league who are really thinking the minutia of the game. I have never felt that way about Michael Porter Jr. And you and I were talking earlier about Rondo and Lowry, and they are computer brains. They're processing lots of things instantly. And I think MPJ is only thinking, should I shoot? Should I shoot? Should I shoot? Like, I just don't, it doesn't mean he can't grow up. He's a young player, but he needs to, for them to then take the big steps to beat these other teams. They still have Murray and Jokic, so that's good. But
well, it's a little different. Like Mason Plumlee was pretty much in the game when Jokic wasn't, and now he's gone.
Right. I don't know who's going to replace him yet.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They drafted a center.
Right. But they can't expect that. But
he's a wonderful piano player, David. I don't know if you saw that segment. I found it very moving.
I coached his older brother.
Oh, there you go. What is his name?
90s. Obiora Naji. I don't know what his parents were doing, but I believe I'm right to tell you that Naji's older brother, Obiora, played for the Gators in the 90s, and I coached him in the summers in like AAU, and he is one of the most amazing human beings of all time. I got a text from an NBA scout who said, "Can you believe Obiora's younger brother isn't get drafted?" I'm like, "No, it's not his son, but it's his brother." I'm not at all surprised. I knew nothing about the Najee kid, and then I saw that thing about his piano. I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. Mr. and Mrs. Najee, amazing people, clearly, because I'm telling you, Obiora, you'd want your son to emulate and your daughter to marry. Okay. That's how great of a person he was. Okay. He wasn't a great player, as it turns out, but he was an amazing kid. And so, he's not going to help them win a championship as a rookie, probably. They've got some defensive issues, right? They couldn't guard anyone. And I don't know I know that hasn't been solved by taking away Jeremy and adding JaMychal. That's only enhanced the problem. So, and we'll see if if Michael Porter Jr. becomes a thinker and thinks about defense a lot, they could be really good, but it's a big question.
Well, I feel as a service to people listening to this or watching this, I've known David for a long time and believe him to be like accurate and impartial and a little bit of a Jeremy Grant homer. Like you love some Jeremy Grant.
He's my favorite player. Yeah. I love him so much. I love him coming. I never met him, but I loved him coming out of Syracuse. And my love for him, I thought it should be picked in the late teens, 20s. I don't think I've been wrong. If you look at that draft now, I haven't done it. What he's being paid by people makes me think I probably was right to say he should have been drafted where he was. So, he was not great for them. He was not great for them during the season. He was when it mattered most. And it's an interesting thing to look at how some guys didn't play at all. And that, think about the Lakers barely playing Dwight and JaVale. And Bradley didn't play at all for the Lakers, and they won the championship. So we'll see how Jeremy does. But I do think that the Nuggets are a step below those two LA teams, and I think the Jazz can overtake them.
They fell out of your top five. They were in your top five contenders.
No, they're just out. I don't know if I'd have them at 6 or not. I have to consider my top 10, but the Jazz added Derek Favors.
Right.
And he's much better than Tony Bradley in the role they're going to use him at, especially.
Yeah.
If they keep Gobert, which we don't know, but let's assume they will. They just maxed out Donovan Mitchell. I actually think the Jazz can be good, really good, really good. Yeah.
What about the Heat? They added Avery Bradley, Mo Harkless, while losing Jay Crowder and Derek Jones Jr.
I think they got a little better, just a little bit better. I like Bradley more than Crowder. They played different positions. I've never been a Jay Crowder fan. He's okay. Derek Jones Jr., great athlete. They didn't play him in the postseason, whereas I think they'd play Harkless. But the reason why I like the Heat as my 5th best team is those additions plus Tyler Hero's going to get much better as the season goes on in year 2 as a second-year player. Kendrick Nunn is going to get better. Not much better. He's older. Still a second-year player. I liked his progress as a player. Even when Tyler took his job, I thought Nunn showed some real veteran maturity in coming off the bench after not playing for a while and then doing well in some of the finals games. And Duncan Robinson was one of the best shooting guards in the league last year, if you look at the metrics. Mm-hmm. And he's got a whole year of experience now under his belt and a finals. So, I think that and Bam, what am I saying? Bam Adebayo's going to get better. He's in year 4. Mm-hmm. What is he, 22? Mm-hmm. Like, why can't he get better? Mm-hmm. He's going to get better. So I think the Heat are going to be right there. Yeah, right there.
Celtics signed Tristan Thompson and Jeff Teague while losing Gordon Hayward, Enes Kanter, Brad Wanamaker, and Vincent Poirier. I'm not sure how you say his last name.
Just call him Vinny.
And Vinny. That's Vinny. Yeah.
That's what's your first take on that?
I don't like it at all. Yeah. Jeff Teague was, once really fast, and that made up for a lot of things he was missing, right? And now he's not as fast. I don't know that you can play him very much. Tristan Thompson's always been like, he was the beneficiary of playing next to LeBron James more than anyone, right? Like, the Celtics are really smart. I'm sure there's some thinking here that I don't follow, but yeah, I don't love that at all.
They're going to sign Daniel Tice, I think, still.
Okay.
And so he'll start at center probably. Yeah, I see this as a step. I think they got worse. We'll see how their draft picks will do from last year. Grant Williams, who played some even in the playoffs. I'm not a big fan of his, but he can be serviceable. I don't know how much better Jason Tatum can get and Jaylen Brown can get. But they can get better still. They're still on their upswing. But, they took big jumps already. Kemba Walker's health is probably the biggest thing for them. I want to love them.
Yeah.
I did actually have in my top 5 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago. But losing Gordon Hayward for nothing. And I think I mentioned someone had texted me a couple years ago. I tweeted out when Brown and Tatum and Terry Rozier were killing it for them when Hayward was out and Kyrie was out. And I tweeted, they should just consider trading Hayward and Kyrie. And Celtics Nation just murdered me.
Would have been a great move.
Imagine. And what I suggested they trade for were draft picks and expiring, like Lou Dang's expiring contract. Imagine that team with money.
Yeah.
But the point I tweeted about this weekend, the point is, you got to have a long-term view. You got to stop looking at tomorrow, which is where I think the Lakers mess up, is they only want to look at tomorrow. And I think that's a mistake. And I think what you said is right. I think they are a well-run team, Boston. And so what we're going to see now and what we're going to see in April are probably 2 different teams.
I'll tell you something else. I'll bet you a reasonable amount of money, like, $7. I'll bet you $7, David, that if you dug deep into the advanced stats, you would find that Tristan Thompson's particularly good against some key rival or another.
Yeah.
I don't know who it would be, but I bet he's good guarding some Bam, some 76 or something, right? I bet you there's some reason why he's situationally important.
Well, and Enes Kanter is a very good offensive rebounder. Mm-hmm. And that matters in the regular season. Energy matters. And so is Tristan Thompson. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So that kind of is, I think losing Enes is bad for them, but I think good for your team.
Oh, should we talk about the Portland Trail Blazers?
I think it's a good segue for the Blazers.
I'm pretty sure, by the way, I'm not rock solid on this, but I'm pretty sure that Enes was the sheriff's deputy on Dukes of Hazzard.
Enes
is the guy. Because it's Enes, you dipstick.
I never watched that, but yeah.
All right. The Blazers traded for Robert Covington, signed Derek Jones Jr. and Enes Kanter. Noteworthy are also getting back from injury Rodney Hood, Yusuf Nurkic, Zach Collins. And they lost Trevor Ariza, Hassan Whiteside, presumably, and Mario Hezonja.
Good riddance.
Just like, as much as you love Jeremy Grant, Mario Hezonja is just like.
And I have nothing against Mario Hezonja. That he just can't. He's just not any good. He keeps getting chances, like he's playing next year somewhere. He looks like a Knicks guy.
Yeah.
I think I told you I would put them under the contenders category. They 2 years ago made the Western Conference Finals.
Did they? I don't remember. One away.
They've got those guys are back healthy, hopefully. Covington is an upgrade over Melo. Derek Jones Jr. is too. Yeah. Like he's athletic, and during the regular season that matters. That you have to soak up minutes to win games. And I think Portland is sneaky good. Yeah, I do. I like them.
I'm a little. I mean, look, it seems like in this world where everybody's treading water, it seems like just by getting Nurkic back, the Blazers re-enter the conversation, and then maybe Robert Covington makes a difference, etc. The one thing I have though is the Blazers had pretty good D when they had Mo Harkless and Al-Farouq Aminu, but they had shooting problems, right? And that really affects Lillard's ability to get to the rim when he plays with non-shooters. So now when I see Derek Jones Jr. really not a shooter at all, part of me is like, I think about how you're going to play, and I think about the Heat didn't play him at all in the playoffs, and I wonder, like, how much can you really play a guy who can't shoot at that position?
During the regular season, you can play him more, as you know. I think that he'll add an athletic component. Covington isn't the athlete he used to be. He's not the defender, in my opinion, he used to be. He's not the on-ball defender, especially that I thought he used to be. I like him very much as a player. I did anyway. And he can shoot, obviously. So, and Ennis will bring energy off the bench. Like they're, think about what Portland did. I don't remember how many games back they were when the seeding game started, but they in Phoenix were the talk of the league for a bit, right? And beat the Lakers in game 1. Right? They lost in 5. The Heat lost in 6. That's
so they're basically the champions, is what you're saying.
No, but I wonder if there's a deal to be made for them to push them forward a little bit more. There might be like if Zach Collins plays well, there might be better fits next to Nurkic. Or if Zach plays out of his mind, all of a sudden they want to move Nurkic. Like he's a variable that's interesting to maybe the key of a deal, or even CJ. As sacrilegious as that might sound, I don't know what the deal would look like now, but there might be a deal that helps both teams because both those guys play much better. And CJ not much better, just play well. Collins can play much better. He's not been good. He's young. This is the year. If he's healthy, we need him to make big. Well, you need him to play much better. And
there was a little bit of, actually, I didn't mention Harry Giles, who has been so injured, but was incredible in high school.
I know all about Harry Giles. He's super talented.
Yeah,
I don't think he's Michael Porter Jr. He's not again, these guys can grow up. He's not thinking the game. He's so talented. I think he's the quickest guy in the league at his size in terms of if you had everyone line up. At a line and in 5 feet was some reward, he would win that race every time. For all guys 6'9", he's so quick and he's got skills as a passer. But I mean, he's been a king, so maybe it's the Kings dragging him down. But I do love his talent. He is really talented. I just don't think he's not a student of the game that way and thinking fast. But I tell you what, he's worth a flyer. Like I think some of these teams have taken guys that are 30 years old, and there's plenty of young guys they could take. He's worth it to me because he's been in the Kings, which is almost like the G League team, really, in terms of how they're run so far anyway. And he didn't make it, but and they have coaching carousel too. I do think he's got a lot of talent, Henry.
Okay, so just draw. This is a shout out to you. Let's assess the Nets as contenders.
Who?
I'm laughing, but the Nets didn't really. They brought back Joe Harris. Am I missing anything else? What do you think of the Nets this year? Like, are they contenders? Do they belong in this conversation?
Oh no. No, please. The quote from Trading Places. No, I don't see it. I love Joe Harris, one of my favorite players in the league too. But you know what? They had the pieces to be contenders with deals. I don't like the KD. I don't like the KD Kyrie signing. I think the duo. I don't like it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't rate it high, and I don't trust what's going to happen there. But they're worth watching. I'm glad you mentioned charitably. They're worth watching. They do have some talent. LeVert, we'll see where LeVert goes. We'll see where their big guy goes. I don't know if they'll DeAndre Jordan they'll keep because I don't think they can trade him. Jared Allen is pretty good.
Yeah.
I liked where they were going before they did with their deals. Did Dinwiddie leave? I've just gone blank.
Oh, maybe it's a good time to bring in Gerard.
Did I miss that? So
Gerard says nope. Gerard says nope.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Spencer's still there, but what's his role going to be now with
there he is
with Kyrie dribbling the air out of the ball?
Coach is hilarious.
Did I say anything that was wrong?
No, I just look. Well, first of all, why am I being attached to the Nets? I'm not.
So I apologize. That's me. Just because you're local. Just because come on, you're gonna be there. Like I can forget them. You can't forget them.
This is the point. when you are pushing back on being linked to a team, it tells you something about your team, right? You know what I'm saying? No one in San Francisco for 5 years was pushing back in the media saying, wait a second, why am I? Ethan Sherwood-Strauss walked towards that role, right? Gerard is walking far away, shoving as he goes from the
far
net.
away. Well, but look, you know how this league goes, right? I mean, you're on top 1 minute, next minute, see you later, right? Like, that's just how it goes. It's the nature of basketball.
Well, let's play a game though. So let's say, Gerard and Henry, that KD is KD, capital letters, exclamation point, right? He's back. Now what? Like,
I mean,
what do we think?
He's, you know what I think? I think when he's healthy, I think he's the best player in basketball.
Yeah.
So you're going to win a ton of games with that guy. Like, and for all of Kyrie's ills, he's also good at basketball, right? Like, you're going to win a ton of games. The question is really what we're asking: when the pressure mounts and the stress test starts, how is the team going to react? That's what we're actually asking. And we don't know. We're going to have to see, right? It could be Clipper situation, right? Where it's like, we haven't built that foundation together as a team. So when things start getting stressful, everybody stresses and breaks apart, and then it's a disaster, right? Like the regular season, I think it's going to be what it is, right? They'll win games and go to the playoffs. It's going to be, oh shit, we're down, or it's 2-2 and we're tied, early in the fourth quarter. What do we do now, right? It's those situations where how are they going to react? And we'll see.
It's the cheese man.
Right. Well, and didn't they get Shamet?
Yeah.
Cheese Man's a free agent. They've got Shamet.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I will agree with everything Gerard just said, except for one thing. I am not convinced Kyrie Irving helps you win games. I think he's fascinating to watch, but I want to see it. I want to see in that role when he's not playing with LeBron James, because I tell you what, he didn't do it for Boston.
It's true.
So we're supposed to have the ability, guys, well, I am anyway, to project what a team is supposed to be. It's easy to say, look what they did. My wife can read their record. I cannot tell you that I think he's going to help them win games. I think Gerard is right. I think that Kevin Durant, and your point, and just think about the playoffs. If indeed Kyrie is willing to play the role he should play, it doesn't mean he doesn't score, because he'll score in his sleep. They're super talented.
Yeah.
Like Landry Shamet, starter for the Clippers. He's very good. Spencer Dinwiddie, he's very good. Jared Allen's good. I don't know, but very good. Spencer Dinwiddie's good, if not very good. Jared Allen's definitely good. Karis LeVert is really good.
Yeah.
They are freaking talented as hell.
No doubt.
If you trade Kyrie, and we might play this game. Maybe, Gerard, you and I should play a game this week of just where would you trade him that helps Kyrie? Because I'm not looking to screw him and the Nets. Like maybe they would be contenders, but I don't trust him to be that guy for this team to make him a contender.
Well, it's what Hall of Famer Isaiah Thomas said so famously, right? The secret of basketball is it's not actually about basketball, right? They move Adrian Dantley, who was a clearly better player than, right, Aguirre. Not even close, but Aguirre helps them win the title, not Adrian Dantley, right? Like, that's just how it works.
Here's my thing. Like, post Achilles KD may be excellent. And when you're long and you couldn't really shoot, that is something that your injury, your bad ankle can't take away from you, right? But he has to play defense. And I think we're going to find that he'll be better playing as like a big man on defense, right? Where he doesn't have to chase little guys all over the court.
Yeah, they go play him at 5. I think they will play him some at 5.
So, okay. But now what... this is to your point, Gerard, about like, this kind of loving each other and trusting each other. Like, this is going to mean giving up a lot of, like, now you have to have Karis LeVert being a superstar out there, right? Like,
no doubt.
And Kyrie, I just feel like it's a little bit of I'm worried that KD and Kyrie are here to show what they can do. If they're here to show what they can do, I don't think it's going to work at all. If they're here to be the best they can be, then that means Karis LeVert's going to blossom, right?
And you're right. And honestly, they don't really have anything to show. Right? Like, I mean, Kevin Durant's a Hall of Famer. Like, you're good. Like, Kyrie Irving, maybe. But I think to David's point, he has to show that he can play the role he's supposed to play, not the role he thinks he needs to play.
To win
right?
games.
Like, that's what he
to win games.
To win, yeah.
To win games, not be a star. And we cannot give KD a pass He is not the leader he could be. I actually loved him with the Thunder. I liked how he played and how he dealt with the circus well. But let's face it, he chose to leave, and there's lots of reasons why, I'm sure. Steph Curry. In the history of the game, there's never been a better player than Steph Curry that was more accommodating to a superstar that came in. There's not been many examples of it to begin with. And he chose to leave that. And he pissed people off on the way out. I've got some question marks about KD too. And that's why I'm just not buying that duo the way I did AD and LeBron, which I thought was just a perfect fit. And I thought the way LeBron, maybe LeBron's the reason, I thought they were perfect fits too.
Well, and there's kind of drifting in and out of the NBA's top 5 through your career, which is an incredible accomplishment, is not the same as being one of the best ever, right? That's just a bigger group. There's a Royce Young story interviewing KD when he was in his final days with the Thunder, and he's just livid, just spitting fire. He can't believe people say nice things about Kawhi Leonard and Steph Curry. This enrages him. So then he won his championship so he can check the box. But now he needs, what he's shooting for now isn't to continue on the marvelous arc he's on. It's to destroy history and to say that, it was ever a mistake to think Steph might be better, right? That's not going to happen. I love Kevin Durant, but that mission post ACL,
yes,
just nearly ACL. Most 40% of players don't return to play at all.
Bad mission.
Yeah.
I wonder, there are probably men that deserve the job, that would be better at the job than Steve Nash. But I do think there's a quality of Steve Nash that has a chance to work. I don't think it's impossible that it can work. Whereas I think Stan Van Gundy, who I adore as a coach, would not work. and that's more on KD and Kyrie than Stan. But I think Nash has a quality. He might, the way to deal with Durant is not with authoritativeness.
No, it's love. It's all love. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's with vulnerability and love and a quiet voice, and treat him as a grown man who's one of the greatest players of all time, because he is.
Yeah. And
just say, hey, we're going to go down together, or we're going to celebrate together. It may not be a championship. It's okay. If we make a far run, we're fine with that. Let's get the process right. Let's treat each other with respect and admiration. You are our best player, without question. You have to be our leader in a way you've never done it before. You didn't have to do that in Golden State. They were good without you. We aren't good without you.
You know who that, Steve Nash knows this job, I'm sure, 1,000 ways from off the court, but one way he knows it on the job is from Sean Marion. Mm-hmm. That's what he said to Sean Marion every day, right? They had to tell, to keep Sean Marion happy, the coaches and Steve Nash said in the media all the time that he was the best player on the team and possibly in the league, right? That's, you know what I mean? This is what happened.
I was telling someone about you guys, you two in particular, and Judy and Adina, our little family. I've been around a long time, dealt with lots of different quote unquote teams.
Can I be Sean Marion, please? Can I be Sean Marion?
You're our Barbosa. No, so
I'll take it.
Yeah, I know, he's great. Talking about, he was the most popular guy in that Phoenix team.
Yeah.
I was in Denver in a blizzard. We were snowed in for a few days and no one was going anywhere. And I was around their team some, and Barbosa was the rock star. And I don't mean of fans, I mean of the team.
Yeah.
They all wanted to hang with that dude. Whatever he was doing, they wanted a part of it. It was great.
Yeah.
But so I've been part of lots of teams, in part because I've had players everywhere and mentor coaches and coach my own teams. And I have been involved in teams where, as my wife would say, I was always putting out fires between teammates, right? My son knows the same story. He's done it too. With our true family, there ain't no fires. We're all with each other. It is built on that mutual respect and admiration and decency, right? And I think when those Suns teams were rolling, they definitely had drama because they had Amari. He was his own issue back then. He's matured into this amazing man. But back then, he was a young guy who was super talented, right? And didn't feel like he was getting enough respect. And I can only imagine Nash like a hummingbird going from flower to flower. I got to deal with him. I can see him say to his wife, I know you made dinner, but I got to go see Omari, right? And I got to go check out Sean and Joe Johnson, whatever. And I think Curry did that for the Warriors for a bit between Draymond and KD. That's one reason why I think everyone loves Clay so much. Drama free. I mean, the media too. I mean, just his charisma wasn't that he didn't have any. And that he was just, you knew he was a robot. He was good. And I think no maintenance at all, as Devin points out. He's right. There's some maintenance going on. Like Steve Nash needs to get his tool belt, right? He needs to get a big thing of tool. There's a lot of work he has to do. And he might be the guy to do it. He might have enough talent in himself to do it.
You know what's so funny? Like, I don't remember if you guys saw this. The Warriors, and I don't remember which year it was in. Might have been in year 1 or year 2, the KD Warriors, when they all sat down with 60 Minutes. Like the main guys, not everybody.
With 60 Minutes, the show?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they were, just talking like, this is what it's like being the Golden State Warriors and whatever. And you could see that point you made, Coach, about Steph sort of like being the hummingbird that's got to go to the different bees. So they're asking different questions. All right, who's more likely to be late for the bus? And I'm watching the whole thing. And they're like, oh, Clay, whatever. And like, I'm watching the corner, you can see Durant just shaking his head like, and I can see the imagination spinning. But if I was late for the bus, you guys would be yelling at me about that, right? Like, it's this weird sort of like, it's so fascinating about him, right? Like this persecution complex, right? Like on the one hand, like you're so amazing at this thing, yet also feel so persecuted at the same time. It's quite fascinating from a psychological point of view.
I want to add to that. So I've told the story before. I don't know if I've ever done on our show. The Celtics were being interviewed. My mind has it being on NBC, but Gerard will remember better than I will what network was carrying the finals at this point. It's when they had Ray and Paul and KG.
Yeah, ABC.
That was ABC, yeah.
ABC, okay. So the question was asked, who takes the game-winning shot?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And who do you think KG pointed to?
They all pointed to Ray.
No.
And Ray didn't.
Yes, go ahead.
And Ray was like, whoever's open.
No. KG, you're almost right. KG and Paul pointed to Ray, and Ray pointed to Paul.
Right.
And meanwhile, in that the last three playoff series, the conference semifinals, the conference finals, the NBA finals, I watched all of them for ESPN. One series, KG was the MVP. One series, Paul was the MVP. One series, Ray Allen was the MVP. And they didn't even like each other, as it turns out. But they were pros. And so this is what Nash ultimately has to get to is they don't have to all invite each other to their kids' birthday parties like the Heat had. Henry made a brilliant point a long time ago about a long early pandemic ago, how Wade and LeBron fell in love with each other going to their kids' games. I know what he means as having raised 2 kids. I have a relationship with men and women that are super tight that'll last forever because we all went to those games together when it mattered, right? It's such a great point. So Nash has to do that. So because right now, if you ask the question, LeVert, Durant, Kyrie, who takes the game-winning shot? I think they all point to themselves. I have no problem with that. But when they start thinking a little bigger, meanwhile, KG might have been the best player of the 3 of them because of what he did defensively. So you got to find that. And that's what Doc did a great job of. Mm-hmm. Is he managed huge egos that didn't necessarily connect all so great into a team that went to 2 finals and won a championship, lost in Game 7, to Ron Artest in the finals the one year. It's a challenge. That coach has got some work to do, but Nash might be able to do it.
Kind of radically change topic for a second.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they made the Ted Stepien rule. Ted Stepien owned the Cavs. He traded all the picks away, and the Cavs were terrible. And the sort of meta-analysis was that a team with no draft picks over the long haul just can't compete. I think they're going to have to address this rule because these clever people have organized the same exact thing. So the Stepien rule means you can only trade your first-round draft pick every other year, but with a pick swap in that in-between year, we have what I'm now hoping we can all agree should be called a ladder.
Draft ladder.
Yeah. So like this Eric Bledsoe, Drew Holiday trade included the Bucks sent 2004, 2005, 2007, a ladder to the Pelicans. The Clippers gave the Thunder a ladder for Paul George, and the Lakers gave the Pelicans a modified ladder in the Anthony Davis deal. Every single way that you can become terrible by this before the Seppian rule, you can become terrible this way. And there will be, I'm pretty sure in 2027, 2028, 2029, when the teams that gave up picks en masse like this are feeling the pain of it, we're going to wish that they hadn't let them do that.
Got to save these owners from themselves and these GMs, right? You know, but it's this interesting thing we were always talking about, right? So many teams just think about the now, right? Because they're all convinced, we're just one whatever away. We just need that guy. And it's like, yeah, you're probably a lot of things away from being good, right? Like, and they just don't know. And because it's hard when you're in it. If I'm a GM and I'm building the team, of course I think my draft picks are good and my system's good and my whatever's good. I just need that one lucky thing and then we'll be great. And it's like, probably not, but
I think it's also like, just straight math. If you're a really smart long-term thinker, and you are a GM, your likelihood of having your job in 4 years is like 20%.
Right.
So as much as you might want to plan for them, like most don't,
That goes to, we've talked before, but it starts with the owner. It starts with the billionaires of giving them, real carte blanche. There needs to be a process. Sell me on it. But because you should care about the fans. That's who's paying your bills. That's who's watching the games and going to the games, right? So if you keep giving them delivering a good season every year, they'll keep coming. They don't have to win. You don't have to win a championship for them to come. We know that. Just be good. Have quality.
Well, some teams have special lures, right? Like Clutch and the Lakers. This is if they plan badly, they might get, they've been getting great players below market to join the train, right? Like this is their philosophy of how they're going to patch things up. But if you're most teams don't have that, right? Most teams don't have Hollywood. And so that can't be your strategy.
But even that strategy, Henry, like you're going to have down years, right? As they had end of Kobe's career, you're going to be crappy for a while because every year you're not going to swing for the fence and get the free agent every single year. You're going to have that wallow of like, we're not great.
Well, they really didn't have Clutch then either, right? Like that time there was just Hollywood and that was not working.
Not enough.
yeah, not enough. Okay, my last little point here is this is a quote from John Hollinger. Let's just pause for a second. NBA just had its worst business year on record, I think, or certainly in recent times. There are lots of demands of players and big escrows to protect the owners from too many losses. And then we have like 5 minutes into the draft time and free agency, John Hollinger is writing that the Knicks, the New York Knicks, the richest team in the league, arguably, may very well go into the season as the only remaining team with cap space, assuming Atlanta uses theirs, in which case New York would be in a powerful position to harvest draft picks from in-season salary dump deals. Well, what? So every single broke owner just spent all the money within like 5 minutes of everything starting, so much so that the Knicks are going to make a good team out of taking their bad contracts off their hands mid-season. Like, nobody was broke, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's hard for a billionaire to go broke. It's really hard for a billionaire. Even my favorite broke boy Fertitta, like he has money. He just has to sell some things to make himself more liquid,
It's crazy. If the players had asked for more BRI, it's inarguable the owners could have afforded it because now they're just going to pay it to each other on luxury tax.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. No, it's I texted or called Henry over the weekend. Like they can't claim broke. Yeah. They can't wait to spend this money.
Look at those deals. They just Gordon Hayward 120.
I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. All for it. For sure. But yeah, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
And then what was the Joe Harris deal? $75 million. I was like, what?
It's
he has a pretty cool beard.
It's like it's the Republican senators and congressmen who are insisting the election was a fraud, but not their election.
Yeah. Randy, we said nice things about the Knicks for a hot second. Don't worry, we'll move along. Don't worry, it's fine.
Hey, they could do what Hollinger said. That would be smart. They do have new management. Let's hope. I'm hoping for
wait
it.
Till next year, I think. Yeah.
We all want New York to be good.
I don't know if I totally agree, but okay.
You wanted the Knicks to be good.
Right.
That's where Garden's a fun place when they're good.
It is. All right. Thank you, David. Thank you, Gerard. Thank you, Judy. See you guys on Wednesday.
Be safe.